Hello and welcome back to another fabulous federalism video. That's so much fun to say, fabulous federalism. But anyway, our learning target today is to compare the structure and function of local, state, and federal governments. We're going to be focusing specifically here on state government structure. Okay, so before we get to that, we need to review all the different systems of government that we talked about way back in Unit 1. We talked about three different systems: a unitary system, federal system, and a confederal system, okay? And our American heritage when it comes to systems of government actually has parts of all three of these in them, okay? A unitary system is where we have a really strong central government, and the state or the regional governments don't really have any power, or if they do, it's not really important power. This was what we were accustomed to when we were connected to Great Britain. Our federal system is what we have right now in the United States. We have a division of power between the states and the federal government, which you might recognize as the definition of federalism. What? You're welcome. So, in our system today, there are certain things that the state governments can do, certain things that the federal government can do. Of course, there are certain things they can both do together. In a confederal system, we would have had a very weak central government and also very powerful state governments. So under the Articles of Confederation, the United States functioned in a confederal system where the state governments pretty much ran the show and the central government really was just there as a figurehead. So I drew this on the board earlier in the year. Here, the red dot in the middle represents federalism, okay? Over here to the left, we see this represents a unitary system. And over here to the right is a confederal system. So as Americans, we have had all three of these things. Woo, go us. All right, so now some pros and cons of federalism. Yes, there are cons. Everything is not rainbows and unicorns and butterflies. So pros and cons, dealing with constitutional compromises. So one of the main, well, not the main part, but one of the requirements for adding an amendment to the Constitution is that you have to get 3/4 of the states to ratify that amendment, okay? So 3/4 of all 50 states. So sometimes that's difficult to do, especially if an amendment is only going to affect or impact one portion of the country, or maybe impact it more than other portions, okay? So sometimes compromises have to be made. When we're talking about historically, the Constitutional Convention, we had a pretty solid division between the North and the South, dealing specifically with the size of the central government, okay? Most of the southern states were more in favor of an anti-federalist, or what Thomas Jefferson later called a democratic republican system of government, whereas more people in the northern states favored a federal system, favored more on the side of the Federalist Party, who wanted a stronger national government. So you know how the story goes. Fortunately, we made some compromises and now we have a federal system. So some pros, some good things about federal systems. Due to the sheer size of our country, a federal system works best for us. If we had a unitary system and we just had one central government that was responsible for controlling everything across the country, we're just physically too big. It's not going to work well. Okay. Also, we're physically too big to have a confederal system. If you can imagine all of the individual states setting their own policies for everything, there would be no consistency. Okay. So the federal system is good for the size of our country. Also, states can serve as laboratories of democracy, so to speak. So if we're interested in seeing how a specific policy might play out on the federal level, like how it might work for the entire country, you could start out with some states. So you could start off by implementing it in the states, or allowing the states to kind of experiment with it. And then you see what works, what didn't work, and then you can change it if you choose to apply it at the federal level. And of course, we also have this sense of diversity, right? We are a diverse country. We have northern states that are very heavily populated. We have coastal states that are very heavily populated. Then we have the Midwest, which is not very heavily populated. We have all sorts of diversity all over the country. And our federal system helps all of those diverse ideas and opinions shine through. So I'm going to stop there. We'll get to cons next time. Bye.